What do you think you could do right now that will kill your art, that will kill your creativity, that will kill your passion, that will kill your joy? Are you doing it right now? Welcome to the Art Mentor. My name is Sean, and by the end of this video, you're going to learn how you can use comparison to either kill your art or for you to leverage it instead to make your art even better, to set better goals, and for you to set yourself up for a much better life with your art. And that all starts with you understanding this. The worst, most tragic mistake that artists will make is that they're gonna take a look at somebody's artwork, it's something amazing, something really cool and inspirational, right? And then they're just gonna say this to themselves, they're much better than me. But what you're really not examining and you're not considering is the mountain of efforts. When I have my students, I don't want them to ever look at my artwork and make them feel terrible about it. But again, you're not thinking about the tens of thousands, the hundreds of thousands of hours that people like myself have sunk into their artwork. And I can even sometimes look at some of my students' work and I'm like, oh my God, that's amazing. You're 16 years old. Like, how are you that good? So instead of you just looking at someone's artwork and blatantly thinking that you're just not better than them, you need to really consider how much time have they put into it so that you can respect that and then you can be inspired to do it yourself. Consider that. Now, we can't consider the amount of time that people put into artwork without examining also why they are doing it. Now, obviously, we could say as artists that we're just insanely passionate people, right? But what drives us to that avenue, right? Here's one thing that we don't talk a lot about, which is that artists tend to really sink themselves into artwork, and especially some of the really great ones out there also have really sad stories. So they're sinking themselves into their artwork and they're plunging really deep into their creative efforts. Why? Because they're in some type of traumatic circumstances, and this tends to happen a lot in childhood. You tend to hear a lot about artists that have had, really unstable lives, and maybe they moved a lot, maybe they had really toxic people in their lives, or they had bad parents. So they just decided to just dive into their artwork because that was a really healthy escape. And if you are looking at somebody who's been in those shoes, then you might not want that life in order to get those results. Like, I can speak from personal experience here saying that, I had kind of a difficult childhood, and that's why I really threw myself into my artwork, because it was my healthy escape from it. It was my world that I could create that nobody else could intrude into. And again, like, there are people that I used to look at all the time and be like, man, they had such a great life. But I wasn't worried about that because I was only worried about creating my own artwork and creating my own world, and that was fun for me. It was my healthy release from it. So don't just look at somebody's artwork and assume that they were just born better than you. You might not want their circumstances. Have you ever thought about that? Another really awful reason that comparing your artwork is just not going to be effective for you, friend, is because it's just going to brew contempt. And when you start to look at somebody's artwork, maybe you feel jealous, maybe you feel bad about yourself. I want you to just examine this, right? How is that going to help you? How are you going to step into being a better artist? How is that going to inspire you to become somebody much better than what you currently are, to produce amazing artwork when you're just constantly caught up in this loop of feeling bad? Maybe you're feeling bad that you don't have the time, or you feeling bad that you don't have the results of them, right? And here's the biggest thing that you want to think about. If you are only focused on the end product, you are losing sight of 90%, which is the process. This is how you build an authentic love and passion for what you are doing every moment of your creating process. And if you have some secret tips you want to share down below, I know people will appreciate it on that too. But this disheartening effect of you being jealous and feeling bad, you got to see it for what it is, y'all. It's really just a disenfranchising effect that you're creating for yourself that's going to limit you, and what's that eventually going to develop into? An excuse for you to quit. Do you really want that? So just to bring it home on the negativity train here, and why comparing artwork is really dumb, is because, y'all, we are masters at distracting ourselves. We are masters at knowing exactly how we need to waste time. It is so easy, isn't it, y'all? So easy for you to just sit down and just doom scroll for hours, looking through other people's artwork, saying that you're finding inspiration, or even if that is something that is a positive effect for you, like, how long are you doing it? Because if you're doing it for an hour, you're not finding inspiration, you're just finding distractions. But because we are so good at wasting our own time, especially with so many stimuli nowadays, then that's also another thing that comparison does for you too, is that it forces you into thinking that you have to constantly look at other people's stuff all the time, and then magically you're going to form yourself into a better artist. But you're not, because when you're comparing yourself, especially when you're comparing yourself negatively, all you are doing is distracting yourself from the opportunities of actually making art. Have you thought about it like that before? Because I see this all the time. And if you are doing anything that is distracting you, that is taking you away from your intended purpose in this life, which is to create amazing artwork, right? Then that is not a good, fruitful effort. Sink yourself into how you can be a more productive and effective artist, and that has to start, y'all, with you producing it. Because if you're not producing it, then you're never gonna get better. Now let's get on board the positivity train here, y'all, because here's what you really do need to understand is that when you start to compare your artwork, when you start to notice the flaws in it, y'all, that's actually a good thing, all right? One of the things that I often say to my mentees in my mentorship is that if you're really starting to take a look at your artwork versus other people's artwork and you're starting to feel bad, that can actually be a really positive sign, because that means that you recognize that you have a higher level to achieve. Now, how you do that, friend, is really important, and it is going to allow you to either sink or swim. And I really want to help you out with that. So here are going to be my tips for you for how to positively compare your artwork that's going to propel you to the next level, that's going to propel you into the future that you deserve. And the most positive thing that I am certain on that's going to propel you is if you hit the like button here, and definitely if you like my content, please subscribe, because I love to help inspire you and encourage you to create amazing, awesome artwork, because that's what you were born for. Now, make sure you pay attention to this so that you can positively compare your artwork. Y'all, the only person that you should be comparing yourself to is yourself. Look in that mirror, see that person, see that artwork that you've done before, and only examine that, because I want you to look at where are the gaps in your armor. Take a look at where you have gone every 3 months, every 6 months, and every single year, and that is the only person that you really should be comparing yourself against, okay? Because if you're looking there, then you're gonna also feel proud at your progress naturally. If you've been pretty consistent, and even if you haven't been terribly consistent, you should be able to see little upgrades. One of the things that I personally do is that every single time I finish an artwork, I put it as the lock screen wallpaper for my phone. So every single time, boop, I get a little notification, I can see my artwork there. And I gotta feel one of two ways about it. I'm either gonna feel really proud of it, or I'm gonna look at it and say, okay, next time I need to fix this. Next time, I think I'm gonna work on this. So literally, you can force yourself into looking at your artwork all the time by doing things like this. Maybe you set it as your desktop background. Maybe you print it out and you put it on your wall amongst all the other artwork you've made this year. Maybe you got a sketchbook, you put all those somewhere so that you can see how you are growing. Y'all, you need to be your biggest cheerleader, because if you're not, just to be real with you, nobody else is gonna fill that role for you, okay? Even if you have somebody that's amazingly supportive, if it's a spouse or a friend or whatever, if it's your dog who's just there while you're drawing all the time, okay? You need to be your biggest cheerleader, because at the end of the day, y'all, art is about pleasing and satisfying you and nobody else. So as you're going to be looking at other people's artwork, y'all, I want you to identify what are the gaps in your armor. Because if you're somebody who's really serious about your artwork, whether or not you want to be a professional, or if you just want to be a really outstanding hobbyist at this too, you're going to get serious about your artwork, y'all, when you take a look at your artwork versus somebody else's, and you start to see the flaws in it versus the hobbyist. The true hobbyist is only going to feel good about it in their progress, okay? You gotta lie somewhere in between there. So if you can take a look at what you currently need to grow on, then you can set yourself some goals. What do you need to learn? What do you need to develop? Do you need to get better with perspective, anatomy, color theory? Do you need to get better at coming up with more interesting compositions, some dynamic posing? Do you need to do some magic effects? Do you need to work on your brush economy? All of these things are really important to you growing into a better artist. But if you are not looking at other professional artworks, some people that inspire you, y'all, then you are also missing out on the opportunity for you to learn how do you get better. Looking at other people's artwork online, borrow some ideas, see what they're doing, figure out, that looks really cool and interesting. How can I insert that into my own artwork? Because if you do it like that, you're gonna feel encouraged, you're gonna feel enlivened, you're gonna want to create more artwork, as opposed to you feeling disheartened and therefore wanting to quit your artwork. See what that does for it? So here's a great strategy for you. Have you ever tried to redraw anything? This can be something that you've done like a decade ago. It could be something last year. It could even be something you did 6 months ago. But start to engage in this process. Redraw something that you did a long time ago, especially if you're like an adult now. Like, redraw something from when you were a young teenager. That should be really cool. Like, I have some really old stuff that I'm now starting to work myself into. Like, I had this IP from when I was a kid. Like I just worked on it with my friend or whatever. And I'm really right now starting to invest into that because I kind of want to develop my own IP too. So maybe if you have something like that, that could be a really awesome personal project for you too. Have you ever done this before? If so, like tell me about it, because I love to know like what are some things that you're doing, what are some things that you're redrawing, and if you want to share that in my Discord too, go ahead and join that. That's right down below here. There's a link for it in all my videos, so definitely join up there if you want to join with some fellow like-minded artists just like yourself. Here's another one too, and especially for you digital artists, you're gonna love this. However though, traditional artists, you can definitely engage in this too, y'all. But start to remaster some things that you have previously done. I mean, hey, games can do it all the time, so why can't we as artists, right? So one of the things that I've been doing a lot this year is I've actually been taking artworks that I did 2 or 3 years ago, or some of them even 6 months ago, and I've just been improving them based on things that I've learned how to do. I've learned how to texture better, I've learned how to render, I've learned how to insert more color, I've learned how to do backgrounds a little differently too. So that's one of my big foci for this year, is I've been trying to revitalize it. And if you haven't seen my video on your 2023 goal setting for an artist, it's right up here. It's also going to be linked down below for you. But definitely check that out, because I gave you some really great ideas for things that you can do this year to see some big improvements in your artwork, and that was one of them. I find this to be really fun, and especially like as you're going to be growing and developing and you're comparing yourself positively, you're going to take a look at where you started and where you are now, and that should excite you, and you should see that growth and development. If you've done something like this, let me know about it, because that's awesome. So here's the big, mega, giga, awesome thing that comparing your artwork positively does. It should force you to stretch your boundaries. As artists, y'all, we love to be little artistic hermits, don't we? Like, we love to just stay in our little safe little artist cave and just not go outside much. But here's the reality, y'all. If you really want to get better, you have to push yourself outside of your comfort zones, because if you're not, your comfort zones are where your art goes to die. Have you ever heard of that before? Because it's true. So what you want to do is take a look at other people's artwork, or take a look at your old artwork, and you need to look at where do we need to get better. One of the things that I have personally embraced is that ever since AI came onto the scene, I'm literally looking at my artwork all the time saying, okay, where do I need to grow and develop? Because I don't want to use that. I just don't see the point in it. And I think that my potential is better than a machine's. And I know a lot of artists feel this way too, because I'm really invested in authentic human creativity, and I don't want anything to spoil that, y'all. So if you're like me, or if you maybe feel contrary to what I feel, but you just want to get better, y'all, start taking a look right now at what you need to do, at what you need to get better at, so that you can grow into the artist that you've always wanted, that you've always dreamed of, that's going to impress the pants out of yourself, of other people, or people that you want to work with as well, because that is the road to you being a bold, brilliant, and amazing artist. So comparison really sucks for your artistic development, but that's not all, folks. And that's why you should watch this video right here, where I'm going to go over everything that's going to kill your art for sure, other than comparison, but also including it. So go check it out.